This is a production of WTVI PBS Charlotte. Tonight on Carolina Impact, it's known as the silent killer because it has no symptoms.
There was no pain, no great pain.
It's a silent killer because I don't feel it.
And left untreated, hypertension or high blood pressure can cause permanent harm.
It can damage the heart, it can damage the kidneys, it can damage the brain.
And simple changes that can lower your risk of heart attack, heart disease, stroke, and kidney disease.
For one thing, I want to live as long as I can and be as healthy as I can.
I've had my warning. I don't think you get very many warnings.
Here's success stories from people now committed to making lifestyle changes. Plus, celebrity chef Rocco Whalen talks openly about his struggle with high blood pressure.
I was on a path of destruction.
And what influenced him to start managing and control his high blood pressure. Tonight on Carolina Impact. Funding for tonight's special is brought to you by Novant Health.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Amy Burkett. Tonight, a special edition of Carolina Impact focusing on high blood pressure. Experts call it hypertension. You'll meet 4 people who had to deal with this head on. What they've learned could help save your life. Going to the doctor for a yearly physical isn't something most of us look forward to, but before you shrug off your next appointment, consider this. You may have high blood pressure and not even know it. Take a look at the numbers. According to the American Heart Association, more than 20% of all people with high blood pressure are unaware of their condition. Now, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that 67 million adults have high blood pressure, but less than half have their condition under control. 1 in 3 American adults has prehypertension, meaning their numbers are higher than normal, but not high enough to be considered high blood pressure. Now, Carolina Impact's Danielle Koser introduces us to a man who initially ignored the warning signs.
Lying in the ambulance on the way up here thinking, what have I done? There was no pain, no great pain, you know, it was not the Hollywood thing where you got your hands around your throat. It sneaks up on you, it's insidious.
But less than a year after his heart attack, 57-year-old Doug Presley enjoys his cardio rehab class with a little classic rock.
Don't you cry no more. I'm happy because I'm still here.
Doug says a number of factors led up to his heart attack, including prehypertension. His doctor warned him years ago the condition put him at risk for developing hypertension or high blood pressure.
110/70. Very good.
I kept telling myself, I'll do better tomorrow. You know, I'll exercise tomorrow. I won't eat junk food tomorrow.
According to the CDC, or Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, blood pressure refers to the force of blood pushing against the walls of the arteries as the heart pumps.
Think of your heart muscle as one of these resistance bands. When your blood pressure is high, your heart is being overstretched again and again. Eventually, your heart will wear out, making it harder to pump blood to the rest of your body.
High blood pressure damages arteries. It can damage the heart, it can damage the kidneys, it can damage the brain.
Health experts measure blood pressure using 2 numbers. The first number, called systolic blood pressure, measures the pressure in your blood vessels when your heart beats. The second number, diastolic blood pressure, measures the pressure in your blood vessels when your heart rests between beats. A measurement reading less than 120 systolic and 80 diastolic for adults, or 120/80, means you're in the normal range. If your blood pressure falls between 120 and 139/80 to 89, you have prehypertension. Experts say consider this a warning. You're at risk for developing hypertension, classified as a reading higher than 140/90. Doctors recommend checking your blood pressure often.
So a good trend is to actually have a blood pressure monitor at home and to check it. It may be once a week, maybe once a month.
Dr. Tom Berenger calls high blood pressure the silent killer because it doesn't usually have any warning signs or symptoms. High blood pressure also increases your risk for cardiovascular disease, including heart attack and stroke. Statistics show 1/3 of adults have hypertension, and your risk for developing the condition increases with age.
So past 50, it's approaching more like 1 out of 2. And past 70, 75, you're actually seeing more people with elevated blood pressure than with normal blood pressure.
The CDC says African Americans develop high blood pressure more often and at an earlier age than Caucasians and Mexican Americans. And this may surprise you. Women are about as likely as men to develop hypertension. Several factors, including family history, health conditions, and an unhealthy lifestyle, can also lead to high blood pressure.
I probably going through 5 Coca-Colas a day.
Following his heart attack, Doug enrolled in this 12-week cardio rehab program.
I can go ahead and put in the target heart rate range that we have now.
Here he worked with a registered nurse, exercise physiologist, and dietitian to lower his blood pressure from 140/93 to 112/73. He also lost 35 pounds. Doctors suggest patients recovering from heart disease attend classes 3 times a week, starting each session by strapping on a heart monitor, checking their blood pressure, and recording their resting heart rate. Then they get to work, strengthening their heart through aerobic exercise.
And he would come in and put his head down and really work hard and continue to push himself a little harder.
And they make it fun. It's not a chore to come in here.
Doug says a second chance at life motivated him to make changes.
Looks good. Your heart rate's 114.
I've had my warning. I don't think you get very many warnings.
It's just heartwarming to watch him on this journey and know that, you know, we probably extended his life. It's just what you dream of as a nurse.
Just as these resistance bands stretch to help strengthen muscles, this class helped Doug stretch out of his comfort zone to help strengthen his heart. Now a proud graduate of cardio rehab, Doug takes each day in stride, continuing on a path towards better health. For Carolina Impact, I'm Danielle Koser reporting.
Thanks so much, Danielle. Doug's story proves as long as you're still breathing, it's never too late to live a healthier life. You can take a quick quiz online to see how much you know about high blood pressure. We've posted the link to the quiz on our website at pbscharlotte.org. Click on Watch and then go to the Carolina Impact page and you'll find it there. Well, joining me now is Dr. Jerome Williams, a cardiologist with Novant Health. Dr. Williams, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
You know, it is never too late. But there's no time like the present to start to pay attention to those numbers and make better choices in your life, right? We've got to stop putting it off till tomorrow.
Absolutely, absolutely. When we talk about hypertension, I like to tell people that we should measure, monitor, and maintain. In order to deal with the problem of hypertension, we need to know that patients actually have hypertension, so they actually have to measure their blood pressure. Whether it be in the physician's office, a home monitoring kit, or even the pharmacy, you should be able to know what your numbers are. After you know what your numbers are, we have to monitor the numbers on a regular basis. So if you have high blood pressure and it's significantly elevated, perhaps once a week may be in order. If you are controlled, once a month or every few months might be in order. After that point in time, we have to maintain the blood pressure in the correct range. Often we do that with diet, exercise, and behavioral modifications.
So those are the tough ones, though. You got the tough ones at the end. Diet, exercise, and behavior modifications. You know, some things we can't change, but other things we can. So we saw also in the story, one of the things is to stop smoking.
Absolutely.
What are other things that we can do to help ourselves have lower blood pressure?
So there are a number of risk factors we have no control over. We have no control over our gender. We have no control over our age. However, the risk factors that can lead to hypertension, such as smoking, salt intake, elevated cholesterol and fats in our diets, we can control that. We can control the amount of exercise that we participate in, as well as the amount of sleep that we get, which is very important as well.
And that's something that's really shocking, that our level of sleep, I hadn't heard that as much. Diet and exercise is always something we know that sort of impacts every part of our life, but that even sleeping problems can add to high blood pressure. What are some of the signs? Because we know this, we call this the silent killer. What are some of the signs that we might not be sleeping well so that we could try to link it all together?
So there's a condition called obstructive sleep apnea, which is a condition that prevents individuals from attaining a deep level of sleep. We do know that uncontrolled obstructive sleep apnea can lead to uncontrolled or difficult to control hypertension. You're absolutely correct that high blood pressure is called the silent killer. And it's called the silent killer because as it's doing the damage to blood vessels of the heart, of the kidneys, of the brain, we don't feel it. By the time we feel it is way too late. That's why we must measure and then monitor and then maintain our blood pressure.
And changing that whole maintaining, but so many of us, as we age, we do pack on a few pounds, and we may feel like it's an overwhelming task to lose if someone needs to lose 20 or 30 pounds. But we also learned that even losing 5 pounds can make a difference with our blood pressure, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely correct. I'd like to tell my patients, this is not a treatment option that we do for a short period of time. What we're really talking about is lifestyle and behavioral changes. We're not changing our diet for a day, a week, or a month. We want to encourage people to eat healthier all the time, to incorporate exercise into their daily routine so that it is not an appendage, it's actually part of their life. So yes, while it's very difficult, if we develop a pattern of behavior that we will follow for a period of time, then it becomes the norm.
And you know what? There's so many tools that can help us these days. All of those trackers counting our steps. I actually have a brand new one myself, and just watching and realizing how many steps we do one day over the other can encourage us, oh my goodness, I haven't moved as much today, or I'm only at 6,000 steps and I can usually hit 10,000. So things like that can be little extra tools in our toolbox to help us live healthier lives?
Absolutely. And I would put those devices under the category of measuring. Okay, so you're measuring your steps. That feedback, that information gives you an idea of what you can do better. So for example, you mentioned the devices that you wear, okay, that tracks your steps. If I am, over the course of the day, realize that I've not taken the requisite amount of steps, then you would tend to take the steps, you tend to walk to the store, you tend to push yourself a little bit more. So I would put that into the category of measuring. Once you know the numbers, once you measure the item, then you can act upon that.
Dr. Jerome Williams with Novant Health. We're going to take your Triple M challenge and we're going to measure, monitor, and maintain. Thanks so much for your information.
Thank you, Amy.
Well, now we get to meet a man behind Fahrenheit, a restaurant with one of the best rooftop patio views of Charlotte's skyline. Celebrity chef Rocco Whalen admits he loves food, but after years of battling obesity and dangerously high blood pressure, he made a decision that helped him shed more than 100 pounds. Carolina Impact's Sarah Batista has more.
A little bit of margay sausage, a little bit of shrimp.
A natural in the kitchen.
Some potatoes and some sweet corn.
He can whip up a recipe without thinking twice at the upscale Fahrenheit restaurant in Charlotte. Not only is he in charge,
a lot of production going on. So
he's also the owner. Whatever your palate craves, Chef Rocco Whalen knows how to cook it. He even showed me a thing or two.
You're doing a great job. Careful though, don't cut yourself.
As a young boy growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, Chef Rocco developed a passion for food early on.
It gave me a sense of family and community, and was really a place where no one really ridiculed me.
His passion for cooking also turned into a love for eating, and it showed. Chef Rocco remembers being the heaviest kid at the school bus stop. The taunting was relentless.
And my last name is Whalen, W-H-A-L-E-N. I've had tape covered over the N on my football jersey before that led to the whale. And that's obviously a term that we all know and love. It's a bigger mammal in the ocean. So those are the things that kind of led me towards obesity.
Despite his expanding waistline, Chef Rocco knew he was born to cook and pursued it as a career.
Throughout high school, I was the only Letterman football player that was in home ec class, believe it or not, because I just wanted to cook. And for me, it was an opportunity to express myself.
By age 24, Chef Rocco opened his first restaurant. Today, he owns 6 restaurants in Cleveland and Charlotte's only rooftop restaurant, Fahrenheit. Now, at age 40, he's at the top of his game. He's even made appearances on the Food Network and the Travel Channel. And like a true chef, he celebrates every success with a good meal.
With emotional eating, which is definitely something that I was or am, you take the good with the bad. There's no better way of enjoying a great review in a magazine or a publication than going out and having champagne or truffles and lobster and some of life's indulgences.
But over time, all those high-calorie indulgences started adding up until his body weight exceeded 400 pounds.
I couldn't control my eating, and my wife really kind of brought me back into reality and said, listen, I want to be here with you. I want you to be around with me, and that was really the turning point for me.
Let's go, Rock. That's when he knew he had to make a decision, so he changed his lifestyle and began cooking healthier meals.
A little bit of a fingerling potato hash with corn, shrimp, and started with just a little bit of sausage. Brings out the flavor and the fattiness, so if you're really health conscious or you're watching what you're eating, you can have a little bit, it goes a long way. And we're gonna serve that underneath a nice piece of local grouper. Try this.
Taste testing everything he cooks is no longer an option, although I got to do a little myself.
All right. Just a little bit. Corn, potatoes, a little fresh basil. Everything's really fresh.
Now he carefully plans out his meals before heading into work, and daily workouts in the gym are routine.
I try to employ guys that are skinny, that like to taste my food, and they taste a lot of it, but I typically pack a lot of my lunches and breakfasts. You know, I start my day with egg whites, cup of coffee, fresh fruit, yogurt.
The way he perceives food is different. He's now more interested in fueling his body than feeding it.
And that leads me to be a better husband, better chef, better operator, better restaurateur.
He's also watching his sodium intake, and that's keeping his blood pressure down.
If the charts for the United States say that you should have less than 2,000 milligrams of sodium a day, be very careful with what you're doing, because if you have a slice of prosciutto or a slice of pepperoni or charcuterie or Parmesan cheese or something along those lines, there's a lot of sodium in there that's not accountable.
Chef Rocco also encourages people to pay attention to the ingredients in their food. For example, the tasty biscuit.
Everybody loves a buttery biscuit, but there's like 15 ingredients in a biscuit.
If you're watching your weight, he recommends avoiding pastas and cream sauces, and above all, don't overindulge. Instead, go for entrees with lean protein and choose lots of leafy vegetables. As you start making healthy choices, Chef Rocco says don't set yourself up for failure by setting unrealistic expectations.
I was on a path of destruction, and I took that opportunity upon myself to change that. And you know what? It's not going to happen overnight. It didn't take you one day to gain 400 pounds. It's not going to take you one day to lose 400 pounds. It's consistent, positive effort and making choices for yourself to be a better person today than you were yesterday.
Living a healthier lifestyle, one spoonful at a time. For Carolina Impact, I'm Sarah Batista reporting.
Thanks so much, Sarah. You can learn more about Fahrenheit and Chef Whalen by visiting pbscharlotte.org. Chef Rocco gave us some great tips on how he's managing and controlling his high blood pressure, but a key ingredient to making any change is having the right mindset. The couple you're about to meet didn't get married until their 60s. As Carolina Impact's Jeff Rivenbark explains, they're committed to making lifestyle changes to control their high blood pressure as they write this new chapter in their lives.
Retirees Isaac and Shirley Coley enjoy working out. These newlyweds come to the Johnson C. Smith University Healthplex at least 3 times a week.
I want to live as long as I can and be as healthy as I can.
Both have hypertension.
I suffer with high blood pressure, really high at times, sometimes over 200. And the thing is that it's a silent killer because I don't feel it.
I want to do what I can to keep it under control and if possible, get it to where it's not really an issue with me.
But the gym isn't the only place where he exercises.
He gets every morning. I don't have to wake him to ask him, you going to exercise? He says, I'm up, I'm out of here. By 7 o'clock, he's out. He doesn't walk far, he can't walk far, but he'll walk the driveway back and forwards, back and forwards.
Even though they often start out walking side by side,
you want my shoulder?
Hypertension slows Isaac down, making it difficult for him to keep up.
See, everywhere I go now with my wife, she's walking ahead of me, and I have to do everything I can just to try to stay somewhere close to her.
So how important is it for patients to keep a log of their blood pressure?
That helps us tremendously.
Dr. Lee Yantz has been a cardiologist for 18 years, and she's diagnosed a number of patients with hypertension.
In this shot up here, you see the aortic valve, and this flow of color shows some leaking. So this heart has several things wrong with it. We'll use this very important information in treating the patient.
Smoking is a major trigger for high blood pressure.
So one of the best things you can ever do for yourself is find a way to quit smoking and using tobacco.
Checking your blood pressure several times a week and recording it in a journal is one of the best tools for managing hypertension.
Well, when I go back to my doctor, I like to share it with her so she'll see where I'm at.
Seeing your numbers on paper makes a big difference to me, and not just deciding whether you need more medicine, but which medicines and what time of day, and how do we need to adjust things. It can make a big difference.
With so many hypertension drugs available, pinpointing the best one for you depends a lot on telling your doctor every medication you're taking.
And please be honest about what you are taking or not. If you're not taking a medicine, it would be very helpful to tell us. Otherwise, we may be making changes or adding more medicine because we're not seeing the response that we expect to see.
Losing just a little bit of body weight could make a major impact.
Even a 5 or 10 pound weight reduction can drop your blood pressure down nicely and even enable you to get off medication sometimes if your doctor recommends it.
When we're talking about hypertension, one of the key things we focus on is lowering that salt intake.
Jennifer Anderson is a registered dietitian at the Heart and Vascular Institute with Novant Health.
There's a lot of hidden sources of sodium. Most people think, oh, it's the salt that I'm using at the dinner table, using the salt shaker. But really, the majority of salt that we consume comes from our processed and prepackaged foods.
Anderson recommends not exceeding 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day. That's a little less than 1 teaspoon of salt.
If we're thinking about a meal, we really want to strive for between 400 to 500 milligrams of sodium for that meal. For snacks, we really would like to have low sodium products, and that's less than 140 milligrams per serving.
And don't be surprised if you find high sodium in foods you thought were healthy.
We think of soup as a healthy food, but a lot of soups are high in sodium, so we need to read the label. Also, things that don't seem salty, like an apple pie from a fast food restaurant, might have a lot more sodium in it than you suspect.
While most people are only concerned about the total calories per serving, paying closer attention to the sodium amounts on food packages is key to controlling high blood pressure. Caffeinated sodas and alcohol can make your blood pressure rise, but that's not all.
Sleep apnea is often poorly diagnosed or undiagnosed in people, particularly women. It's a very common problem and a very dangerous problem. Untreated sleep apnea clearly causes high blood pressure.
The bottom line?
Unfortunately, everything on our list is very important. All these things can impact you.
I hear other people say, oh, I've been married for 30 years, 40 years. Well, we're in our late 60s. I don't know if we'll make 30, but I want all that we should have. And the only way we can have that is to get out, exercise, eat properly, and just try to have a good life.
By exercising and implementing lifestyle changes now, the Coleys hope to share many more years together by each other's side. For Carolina Impact, I'm Jeff Rivenbark reporting.
Thanks so much, Jeff. And to the Coleys, we wish you many anniversaries to come. Lots of joy and happiness. Well, joining me now is Dr. Yeli Aluko, cardiologist with Novant Health. And I want to touch on some important things, Dr. Aluko. Help us understand. We say that high blood pressure is something we often can't feel or see the symptoms, but how do we know if it's actually under control?
Well, first of all, if a person has high blood pressure, they need to know that, and they need to know what a normal blood pressure is. And a normal blood pressure is dependent on a person's age or associated conditions. For example, the recommended goals for blood pressure treatment for people below the age of 60 is 140/90. And above 60 years of age, it's 150/90. However, if people below 60 also have kidney disease, or if they are diabetic, the goal for that population would also be 140/90. There are several options for blood pressure treatment. We start generally with drugs if dietary maneuvers don't work, and the drugs that we start off with are often called diuretics, which is, layman's language, would be a water pill.
Right, step one.
Step one. And if that doesn't work, we go in a stepwise manner to other options, which could include a calcium channel blocker, or what we call an ACE inhibitor, ACE-I, or an ARB, angiotensin receptor blocker. And these drugs can be used in combination or in isolation. We need to get a combination that works. In essence, you have to ensure with further follow-up visits with your doctor that the goal is attained. Those numbers are important. They must be normalized on therapy.
Now, help people understand about how long can this take? Say I've been a model patient. I showed up at my doctor's office. You had to prescribe one of these medicines for me. How long can it take to work? I'm doing my diet and exercise, I'm being a good patient, how long could it take me to see a positive impact?
It could be as short as 1 week, but in some cases of resistant hypertension or oftentimes refractory hypertension, and those two latter cases are difficult to control, it could take up to 3 months with multiple trials of different medicines. Some patients may have some side effects from what we've tried, but most patients can be adequately controlled. It does require repeat visits to your physician, chronicling logs of your blood pressure at home and showing what your blood pressure is outside the doctor's office, because oftentimes your pressure goes up in the doctor's office simply because of anxiety.
Sure. I mean, we all get nervous and we want to live healthier lives. Let's remind people about what happens if we don't get our high blood pressure under control.
Well, you've probably heard the fact that hypertension, high blood pressure, is referred to as the silent killer. Hypertension doesn't manifest any symptoms, and when it starts to manifest symptoms because it's damaged organs, that means a person has had high blood pressure for many years. High blood pressure can cause problems in the heart. It can cause patients to be predisposed to have a heart attack. Hypertension can also have patients predisposed to have congestive heart failure and weak heart muscles. Hypertension causes problems with blood vessels everywhere. In other words, you can have a stroke because of blood vessel damage in the brain. And you could also have problems with kidney failure resulting in the need for kidney dialysis because of problems with blood flow to the kidneys as a consequence of hypertension. And finally, you can have problems with circulation in your legs. If you have advanced circulatory problems in your legs from hypertension, you may require an amputation. So you can tell that there are significant, devastating consequences for hypertension if it's not treated.
You know, we read in the New England Journal of Medicine that we would have 56,000 fewer strokes and heart attacks each year if people could control their high blood pressure. And the other amazing statistic that I saw was researchers found better management of hypertension would save 13,000 lives each year without adding more cost to the healthcare system. So this is such a huge effect that often we know obesity can impact and cause a lot of other problems in our system, but high blood pressure is just as important.
Very important. Those are very sobering statistics, and they translate to severe millions of dollars of spend in the healthcare systems. So yes, it is very important to remember that hypertension doesn't present with symptoms, and when symptoms do occur, they are usually as a consequence of hypertension being present for a long time and being uncontrolled. And it is not that difficult to treat.
Dr. Yeli Aluko from Novant Health, thank you so much for sharing this important information with us. We so appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
We want to remind you that if you go to pbscharlotte.org, we've got links posted by tonight's stories for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the American Heart Association, and of course, Novant Health. There, you'll find even more resources to help you understand more about hypertension and ways you can manage it. We all know knowledge is power. We certainly hope, after watching tonight, you have more knowledge about the dangers of hypertension. Now you're empowered to make changes to live a longer, healthier life. From all of us here at your public television station, WTVI PBS Charlotte, thanks so much for joining us for this very special health edition of Carolina Impact. We hope to see you back here again next time. Good night, my friends.
Funding for tonight's special is brought to you by Novant Health. A production of WTVI PBS Charlotte.